It was a rainy evening when I first stepped into the house. The neighborhood was quiet, almost too quiet, as if the whole world had stopped breathing. The house stood at the end of a narrow cobblestone street, its paint peeling and windows dark, yet somehow inviting. I had just moved into the city for a fresh start, leaving behind the chaos of my old life. This house seemed perfect, isolated, big, and cheap, which was rare for the area, but deep down, something about it felt wrong. The realtor had told me it was historically charming. I laughed nervously when she said that, trying to ignore the shiver running down my spine. She handed me the keys with a wide smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Just make yourself at home," she said, her voice unusually hollow. I forced a polite smile and nodded, then watched her walk away down the street, the rain swallowing her figure. As I unlocked the heavy front door, a gust of cold air hit me, carrying the faint smell of damp wood and something else, something faintly metallic like blood. I shrugged it off, blaming the storm. Inside, the house was dark, with only the dim light from the storm outside illuminating dusty furniture covered in white sheets. The walls were lined with old paintings, their subjects' eyes seeming to follow me as I walked. I set my boxes down in the living room and turned on the lights. The house groaned under the storm, creaking and shifting as if it were alive. My heart rate increased, and I felt an irrational sense of being watched. I told myself it was just my imagination, the combination of moving stress and the storm. But when I entered the kitchen, I noticed something strange. On the counter, a small note written in a shaky hand. "Welcome, stay quiet." My hands trembled as I picked it up. I live alone. No one had been here before me. I looked around, half expecting someone to appear in the shadows, but the kitchen was empty. The lights flickered, then steadied. I laughed nervously, shaking my head. "Just a prank," I whispered to myself, though my voice sounded foreign in the empty house. Night fell fast, and the rain turned heavier, drumming against the roof. I unpacked a few essentials and decided to call it a night. As I lay in bed, the wind howling outside, I thought I heard something, a soft whisper almost indistinguishable from the sound of rain. My eyes shot open. It wasn't the wind. It was coming from the hallway outside my bedroom. I froze, straining to hear. The whispering grew slightly louder, forming words I couldn't understand. It was faint but deliberate, like someone was speaking just for me. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to ignore it, to tell myself I was imagining things, but curiosity gnawed at me. I slowly got out of bed, my bare feet cold against the wooden floor. And that's when I first realized the house wasn't empty. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear them, soft, almost teasing whispers slithering through the walls. I told myself it was just the old house settling, but deep inside, I knew it wasn't ordinary. The whispers were too deliberate. Sometimes they sounded like words, sometimes like sighs of someone standing just behind me, out of reach, watching. By morning, I was exhausted, but the storm had stopped. Sunlight filtered weakly through the grimy windows, casting long, jagged shadows across the floorboards. I tried to ignore what had happened, convincing myself it was stress or imagination. But the house had other plans. As I unpacked my clothes into the bedroom closet, I noticed a shadow flicker across the hallway mirror. I froze. It wasn't me. The reflection showed something standing in the corner, indistinct black without clear features. When I blinked, it was gone. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, but I couldn't. Something was holding me here, a silent grip I couldn't see. I decided to explore the house during daylight, hoping the sunlight would expose the trick my mind was playing on me. The living room was cluttered with old furniture. A broken rocking chair, a tarnished chandelier, and walls lined with portraits whose faces seemed wrong. Not in a frightening way, but off, slightly twisted, almost smiling when I wasn't looking. One painting of a family caught my attention. They stared straight at me. The father's eyes seemed to follow me as I moved across the room. And then in the reflection of the window, I saw them behind me. I spun around, nothing. Just the empty room, sunlight spilling across the floorboards. But when I turned back, the painting was different. The father's expression had changed. His smile had widened. My stomach churned and a cold sweat ran down my back. I backed away, heart hammering, and the whispers returned, soft, taunting, circling me like smoke. "Stay, stay, stay with us." I couldn't understand the words completely, but the meaning was clear. This house was alive, or at least inhabited by something that had waited for me. I felt it pressing in from every corner, the walls pulsing subtly like a heartbeat. I rushed to the kitchen, hoping the bright light of the day would ground me. The note I had seen the night before was gone. Instead, on the counter, there was a small handprint, Wet, red, but not mine. Panic surged. I wanted to leave, to throw my bags in the car and drive away, but the doors wouldn't budge. Not locked, they just resisted, as if the house itself refused to let me go. And then I heard it again, the whispering, now louder, clearer, coming from every corner at once. "Don't go, we need you." I stumbled back, almost tripping over a rug that hadn't been there before. My heart raced. My rational mind screamed, "It's impossible. Houses don't do this." Yet everything in me, every instinct, told me the house was watching, thinking, waiting. And in that moment I realized moving in wasn't just a decision. It was a trap that night. Sleep was impossible. The whispers were louder, sharper, more insistent. They weren't just voices anymore, they were commands. Come closer, don't hide." I tried covering my ears, but the sound seemed to come from inside my head, vibrating through my skull. Every shadow in my room stretched unnaturally, moving with intention, as if the walls themselves were alive and breathing. I couldn't stay in my bedroom. Heart racing, I crept into the hallway. The dim moonlight filtered through the dirty windows, revealing dust particles floating like tiny spirits. That's when I noticed it. The floorboards seemed wrong. Not warped, but pulsating subtly, like they were moving under my feet. Every step I took echoed strangely, not in the hall, but behind me, as if someone or something was mirroring me. I turned sharply, nothing. Just the hallway stretching endlessly, darker than before. The whispering grew more urgent. "This way, don't stop, fall." I froze. The voice was calling me, beckoning me deeper into the house. Against my own will, my feet moved forward, carrying me toward the basement door I hadn't noticed before. The door was old, paint chipped, and the handle cold to the touch, icy, almost alive. I wanted to pull back, to flee to the street, but my body refused. My hand touched the knob, and a sudden jolt of fear shot through me like electricity. The whispers didn't stop. They became more personal, almost intimate. They knew me. "We see you, we've waited for you." Every word was like fingers crawling over my skin, chilling me to the bone. I realized then that this house didn't just want to scare me, it wanted something from me. Something I couldn't understand yet. With trembling hands, I turned the knob. The door creaked open, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. The air was cold, suffocating, heavy with the smell of damp earth and rust. I could hear faint scratching sounds from below, like nails on wood. And then, unmistakably, a whisper right behind me. "Step inside, it's safe." I wanted to scream, to run back to my bedroom, but fear and curiosity were intertwined in a way I couldn't resist. One cautious step onto the first stair, then another. The staircase seemed to stretch longer than it should, each step groaning under my weight, echoing like a drumbeat. I felt a presence following me, always just beyond sight, moving in rhythm with my steps. At the bottom of the stairs, the basement opened into a wide, cavernous room. Shadows pooled in corners, and strange symbols were etched on the walls, ancient, unreadable, but pulsating faintly, like they were alive. And in the center of the room was a chair, rocking gently, slowly, as if someone invisible was sitting in it. The whispers converged into a single, almost pleading voice. "Sit and listen, we will show you." I stopped, paralyzed. Something about the room made every hair on my body stand on end. The house was no longer just a building. It was a living entity, and it had plans for me. I realized with a chilling certainty that the longer I stayed, the less I would be able to leave. And as I stepped closer to the chair, the air seemed to tighten around me, pressing against my chest. The whispers became louder, faster, urgent, overlapping in a cacophony that drowned out my thoughts. "We've been waiting, we need you, don't run." The chair in the center of the basement didn't stop rocking. I stared at it, frozen. Every instinct screamed at me to run, yet my feet felt rooted to the floor, as if invisible hands were holding me there. The whispers surrounded me, no longer just guiding me, they were demanding attention, urgent, almost frantic. I edged closer, my eyes scanning the cavernous basement. That's when I noticed it, walls covered in old photographs. Family after family, all standing in the same living room, same chair. Each photo looked like it had been taken decades apart, yet the chair in every picture was always empty. Except for the shadow, always just in the background, blurred but unmistakable. A chill ran down my spine. I realized I wasn't the first to enter this room, and judging by the handprints on the walls, I wouldn't be the last. My stomach churned as the whispers grew louder. "Look, see, understand." I forced myself to focus on the chair. It was ordinary enough, worn and wooden, but the way it rocked, gently, without anyone visible, it felt alive. I swallowed my fear and slowly reached out to touch it. The moment my fingers grazed the wood, a sudden, sharp jolt surged through my body, making me stumble back. My heart raced as the whispers intensified into a scream that echoed in my mind. "Sit or suffer!" I stumbled backward, hitting the wall. Then the basement seemed to change. Shadows elongated, crawling along the walls like living things. The symbols etched into the walls glowed faintly, pulsating in rhythm with the whispers. My breaths came in short, panicked gasps. I realized the house wasn't just trying to communicate, it was testing me. I took a step back toward the stairs, desperate to escape. That's when I saw the first figure, a small silhouette standing silently in the corner. It was like a child, but its face was obscured by darkness. The whispers shifted, soft and coaxing. "Do not fear, join us." I felt a pull toward the figure, magnetic and terrifying. My mind screamed, "Run," yet my legs took a step forward. Every instinct in my body fought against the invisible force, dragging me closer to the shadows. The air grew colder, heavier, pressing against my chest. I coughed, trying to gasp for air, but the basement seemed to swallow every breath. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far corner. A book fell off a shelf, opening to a page filled with more symbols, incomprehensible and twisted. I noticed faint stains, dark red splattered across the pages. My stomach turned. Whatever had happened here before wasn't natural. Then the whispers changed. They were no longer soft or coaxing. They were angry, impatient. "You've waited too long, now you belong," panic surged. I bolted for the stairs, but the steps stretched endlessly before me, the basement seemingly infinite. I realized then the house didn't want me to leave. It wanted to consume me, to trap me in its dark heart. And for the first time, I understood. The whispers weren't guiding me. They were hunting me. As I ran, a cold hand brushed my shoulder. I screamed, spinning around, but no one was there. Only the shadows moved, growing longer, reaching out, waiting. And in that moment, I knew one terrifying truth. The house had claimed me. I had never felt terror like this before. The basement staircase stretched endlessly, as if the house itself was reshaping the walls to keep me trapped. Every whisper grew louder, sharper, almost tangible. They weren't just voices now. They were claws scraping against my mind, trying to bend my thoughts, twist my fear into obedience. I ran blindly, my hands skimming the cold, rough walls, trying to find any familiar mark, any sign of the stairs leading up. That's when I saw it. One of the shadows had taken form. A tall, humanoid figure, featureless except for its eyes, hollow, black, and unblinking. The whispers now came from it directly, not just around me. "You cannot escape, you belong to us." I froze, my feet refusing to move. My chest felt tight, like invisible hands were squeezing every breath out of me. The figure slowly extended an arm toward me. And that's when I realized it wasn't just reaching. It was pulling, tugging at something inside me. I felt my own fear turning into something physical, dragging me closer to it. In a desperate attempt, I slammed my shoulder into the wall and bolted, diving down a narrow corridor I hadn't noticed before. The whispers screamed behind me, overlapping into a terrifying crescendo. "Run or join us forever." The corridor seemed endless. Every door I passed was slightly ajar, shadows crawling out, flickering with movement like smoke. I could hear faint breathing, soft sobs, and whispers of past occupants, the ones who hadn't escaped. A feeling of dread engulfed me. The house wasn't just alive, it was sentient. And it had been feeding on anyone foolish enough to step inside its walls. Suddenly, I stumbled into a room filled with mirrors. My reflection stared back at me, but it wasn't me. The image in the glass twisted, distorted, smiling in ways I hadn't yet imagined possible. And the whispers, oh God, the whispers, were now directly behind me, chanting my name, circling me like vultures. "Join us, join us." I realized something horrifying. The house wasn't just hunting me. It was trying to replace me, to trap my soul within its walls, adding me to the endless shadows that roamed the basement. Panic turned to fury. I had to fight. I grabbed a nearby chair, smashing it against one of the mirrors. The glass shattered with a scream, and for a brief moment the shadows recoiled. But that relief was fleeting. The floor beneath me rippled like water. The whispers laughed, mocking, cruel. The humanoid figure had multiplied, dozens of faceless forms emerging from the walls, from the corners, from the floor itself. Each one stretching, reaching, hungry for me. I screamed, running blindly through the room, dodging hands that clawed at my skin, shadows brushing against my hair, my face. My mind raced. How do you escape a house that isn't just walls and floors, but a living entity with memories, malice, and a hunger for the living? I reached a door at the far end of the mirrored room. It was slightly open, a faint light spilling through. My last ounce of strength surged forward, and I slammed my shoulder against it. It gave way. I didn't know if the light outside was salvation or another trap. All I knew was that the house wouldn't let me leave willingly. And deep down, I understood that what waited beyond that door was only the beginning. The door slammed shut behind me with a force that rattled the hinges, but the relief was short-lived. The corridor beyond wasn't familiar. It was narrow, endless, stretching into darkness, with walls lined by old wallpaper peeling in strange patterns that almost seemed to move. The whispers followed me relentlessly, now murmuring in dozens of overlapping voices, each one claiming to know my deepest fears, my most private secrets. I stumbled forward, my hands grazing the wallpaper. That's when I noticed scratches beneath the surface, faint lines forming letters that spelled out names, hundreds of them. The names of people who had lived here, or perhaps had died here. My heart pounded. Each name felt alive, almost calling to me, reaching from the walls as if begging for release. A sudden cold breeze swept through the corridor. The whispers coalesced into a single voice, chilling and commanding. "Do you want to know why we wait? Do you want to belong?" I froze. My mind screamed to run, but something in me, a morbid curiosity I couldn't fight, forced me to nod, though no one could see me. The wallpaper started to peel more aggressively, revealing hidden compartments in the walls. Inside, I saw old objects. Toys, a broken watch, letters yellowed with age, and personal belongings of unknown families. Each item seemed to hum with residual energy, memories of fear and despair lingering in every corner. Then I saw the book. Bound in black leather, thick and ancient, it rested atop a makeshift pedestal carved into the wall. I approached it cautiously, feeling the oppressive weight of the house pressing down on my shoulders. The whispers turned urgent. "Read, understand, belong." I opened the book. The pages were filled with symbols, diagrams, and words I couldn't comprehend. But as I stared longer, the symbols began to shift, forming images. Visions of the past, horrifying scenes of families trapped in the basement, slowly consumed by shadows, whispering, screaming, until they became one with the house. I felt a chill run through me. The house wasn't just sentient, it absorbed life, trapping souls to feed its hunger. I closed my eyes, trying to resist the pull. But when I opened them, I wasn't alone. Faces pressed against the walls, ghostly figures staring at me with empty eyes, whispering my name. Their mouths moved soundlessly, their hands pressing through the wallpaper as if trying to reach me. I realized that the house had been patient, waiting for the perfect prey, and I was it. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my head. A voice, different from the whispers, echoed in my mind. "You cannot escape what you are destined for." I fell to my knees, clutching my head. My thoughts were no longer my own. The house was invading them, wrapping itself around my mind, showing me visions of endless corridors, endless darkness, and a future where I would be just another whisper, another trapped soul feeding its insatiable hunger. Panic surged. I scrambled to my feet, desperate to escape, but the corridor had changed. Doors I had passed before now led only to walls. The wallpaper seemed alive, writhing, and the whispers were louder than ever, pressing against me like a storm. "Stay, you cannot leave, belong." And in that moment I knew with absolute certainty. The house wasn't just dangerous, it was intelligent, it was patient, it was hunting me not with force but with time. And I had already been inside long enough for it to begin claiming me. I ran blindly through the endless corridor, my chest heaving, my mind spinning with the horrors I had just witnessed. The walls seemed to pulse, breathing in sync with my heartbeat. Every step I took echoed unnaturally, as if the house itself were mocking me. The whispers surrounded me now, screaming in dozens of overlapping voices, each one laced with anger and hunger. "You cannot leave, you belong to us." Panic propelled me forward. I tried the doors along the corridor, desperate for an exit, but each one led only to another hallway, another trap. It was as if the house had no boundaries, as if it were infinite. Shadows darted across the edges of my vision, but whenever I turned, nothing was there, except the walls, closing in slowly, almost breathing. Then the whispers coalesced into a single, commanding voice, piercing my mind. "Face us or be consumed." I froze. The floorboards beneath me began to creak and warp, rising into jagged spikes, forcing me to jump and stumble. From the walls, shadowy figures emerged, their humanoid shapes twisting and stretching, reaching toward me with elongated fingers. They weren't just shadows. They were the previous occupants, trapped and twisted, now fully merged with the house, feeding its insatiable hunger. I tried to scream, but my voice was swallowed by the oppressive darkness. The figures moved faster, surrounding me, whispering my name, recounting every fear I had ever had. The temperature dropped so suddenly that I could see my breath, fogging the air. I felt something cold brush my arm, an invisible hand pulling me toward the nearest wall. Desperate, I swung my arm and caught hold of a door handle. With a surge of adrenaline, I yanked it open, and for the first time I saw light, a faint, flickering glow coming from outside a room. I dove through, slamming the door behind me. The moment I did, the shadows outside howled in unison, a deafening, inhuman sound that shook me to the core. The room I entered was small, almost a study, filled with old books and papers scattered across the floor. In the center was a large mirror. I approached it cautiously, only to see my own reflection, but it wasn't alone. Behind me, the shadows crowded, pressing their distorted faces against the glass. Their eyes were empty voids, their mouths twisted into grins that made my stomach turn. And then I felt it, a pull from behind, stronger than anything I had ever experienced. The house was trying to claim me physically now, to drag me into its walls, to add me to its collection of lost souls. I fell to my knees, clawing at the floor, screaming for something, anything, to stop it. The whispers, now unified into a deafening chorus, echoed in my mind. "You cannot escape, you will belong forever." For a brief, terrifying moment, I understood the truth. The house didn't just trap people. It didn't just kill them. It consumed their essence, their fears, their very will, and used it to grow stronger. Every scream, every shadow, every whisper was part of its power. And now it had me. I realized then that my only hope was not to fight, but to survive long enough to understand the house's rules, to find a weakness in its endless hunger. I sat on the floor, my back against the mirror, trying to control my racing heart. The whispers had quieted, but only slightly, like a predator pausing before the strike. Every instinct screamed that I couldn't stay in one place for long. The shadows were patient, they didn't chase blindly. They waited, knowing that fear alone would trap me. I needed a plan. I scanned the room. Old books and papers littered the floor, but one book caught my eye. A journal, bound in cracked leather. Flipping it open, I saw entries written by someone long gone, a previous tenant. Each page detailed encounters with the house, warnings scrawled in frantic handwriting. Do not follow the whispers. They are never what they seem. Only light can weaken them, only understanding can survive them. Light, understanding. My mind raced. The basement had no windows, but the hallway outside led to rooms where daylight still filtered in, faint but real. I had to lure the shadows into areas where they couldn't fully reach me, use their own obsession against them. I rose slowly, heart pounding, and crept back toward the hallway. The shadows reacted instantly, emerging from the walls and floor, their faces distorted with rage and hunger. The whispers returned, now furious. "You will belong. You cannot escape." I ran, weaving through the narrow corridor, using the flickering moonlight from broken windows as my guide. Each step was a calculated risk. I could feel the shadows brushing against my arms, tugging, testing my resolve. Every instinct told me to flee blindly, but I remembered the journal. Understanding was key. I reached a small room, a study perhaps, with a single window open to the stormy night outside. Moonlight spilled in, sharp and bright. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in anger, unable to cross fully into the light. My chest heaved as I realized I had found their weakness, illumination, exposure. But the house wasn't done. The whispers intensified, forming a chorus of all the lost souls trapped within. They surged toward me, shapes twisting unnaturally, merging into a towering figure of black smoke and malice. It reached for me with hands like iron, eyes glowing with empty voids. I grabbed the nearest object, a wooden rod, and swung it toward the shadows, not to harm, but to redirect, to buy myself space. The figure hissed, recoiling from the strike, and I darted toward the window. I climbed onto the sill, balancing precariously as the wind lashed against me. The shadows stretched toward me, whispering my name, begging, threatening. I took a deep breath, knowing the next step could be my last. Then, with a desperate leap, I launched myself into the night. The air hit me like a torrent. Below, the street glistened from the rain, empty and silent. Behind me, the house's screams echoed in the distance, furious and frustrated, as if it had lost its grip temporarily. I ran without looking back, not daring to pause. But even as I put distance between myself and the house, a chilling realization settled in my chest. Escaping the walls didn't mean escaping the whispers. They were patient, they were eternal, and I had only postponed the inevitable. I ran through the wet streets, the night wind biting at my skin. The house loomed behind me, its silhouette twisted and unnatural, like it was watching, waiting. The whispers were gone, at least for the moment, but their echo remained in my mind, a constant, low hum beneath my thoughts. I had escaped, I thought. Morning came slowly. The storm had passed, leaving the city drenched and silent. I reached a crowded street, hoping for safety and light and people. My heart still pounded, my mind still reeling from what I had experienced. I told myself it was over, I had survived, but survival came with a price. That night, as I tried to sleep in a hotel far from the house, my phone vibrated. No notifications, no calls. I picked it up. The screen was black, then flickered to life on its own. A single image appeared, the house. The front door slightly open, shadows moving behind the windows. And below it, a message typed out in the same trembling, ancient script I had seen in the basement journal. "We see you, we are patient." I dropped the phone. The whispers returned, not in the hotel, not outside, but in my head. Faint at first, teasing, then growing louder, circling me in the darkness. I could feel the pull again, subtle but insistent. My hands shook. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, that distance would break their grip. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't. The house had claimed a piece of me. A fragment of my fear, my essence, had already been absorbed, tethering me to its darkness. The whispers weren't bound by walls or distance. They followed, patient and eternal, waiting for the moment they could pull me back entirely. I tried to leave the city, to vanish, to disappear into crowds, but the whispers adapted. They were inside my mind now, in my dreams, in the spaces between thoughts. I realized the terrifying truth. The house wasn't just a location. It was a predator, and I had walked straight into its lair. I sit here now, writing this, trying to warn anyone who might stumble across the old house. You think you can survive it, escape it, but you can't. It waits. Always, it watches, always. And even now, as I tell you this story, I can feel the whispers curling around the edges of my mind, reminding me. You belong to us. One day, we will claim you fully. I glance at my phone again. The screen flickers. A shadow moves across it, vaguely humanoid. My heart races, knowing that no matter where I go, the house waits, patient, hungry, eternal. And somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of creaking wood and whispering voices reminds me of a horrifying reality. The story never ends. The house never stops. And one day it will find you too.